Madhava Gopijana Balabham Girivadadhadi Girivadadhadi Gopijana Balabham Girivadadhadi Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanatira Banachadi Jamunatira Banachadi Tira Banachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhadi Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhadi Gopijana Balabha Girivadadhadi Girivadadhadi Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanatira Banachadi Jamanatira Banachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarastasi Simad as Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're in an interesting section of Brahma's prayers, halfway through verse 13 and heading for verse 14, Canto 10, chapter 14, text 13. Interspersed within the prayers is some very interesting teachings or revelations about the absolute truth, Krishna Tattva. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna is the original source of everything. And included in everything that he's the source of is the Vishnu forms, at least originally, ultimately. Vishnu forms are, in the language of the Bhagavatam, or language of our devotional texts, they're kala, they're portion of a plenary portion. So the previous two verses were focused on Krishna as Mahavishnu, Krishna as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and this one is Krishna as Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. At least according to Jiva Goswami and other of our acharyas, that's the intention of Brahma, or it's truths about Krishna that he's revealing within the prayer itself. So he's surrendering to that original personality of Godhead, who's the source of everything. Yet it's Lord Brahma's standards of what that source of everything is. So the purpose of each of these Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Ksirodakasayi Vishnu text is the continuation of what came just before that, which was his appeal for forgiveness, because he made a big mistake. He did something quite wrong. And he's very clear what that something wrong is that he did, and he states what that something wrong is. And he's seeking forgiveness. Now, earlier, it seems that he's not seeking forgiveness. He's asking to be engaged in the Lord's service. You can give me forgiveness or punishment, whatever you like. And now he's leaning in the please give me forgiveness side. So with Mahavishnu, it's your qualities are unlimited, such as your mercy. So please give your mercy. In your unlimitedness, how unlimited? I'm a living entity that's the creator of this universe, and I think a lot about myself. I'm a little proud of my having created the universe, but it's just a little pot-like space. Comes and it goes. And each one of those universes come from the pores of your body as your exhale. So I'm very tiny compared to you. Your qualities are very great, including mercy. Please give your mercy and forgive me. This is Mahavishnu. Then Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he uses another explanation, a metaphor of a mother who within her womb, she has a child, may have a child. And when the child that's within her womb starts kicking, the mother doesn't find fault and doesn't, punish the child. Child just being a child in the womb of the mother. So I'm like that. You're Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who from within you, all living entities are held until it's time for creation. And then from you come all living entities, including me. So I'm your child, so please forgive me, Mom. Or then the term that's used is Hiranyagarbha, and we spent some time. There's multiple meanings of Hiranyagarbha that our acharyas give us some indication about. Hiranya means golden and Garbha, egg. So the universe is egg-shaped, and he's the Lord, he's Garbhodakashayi Vishnu within that egg-shaped universe. So he's Hiranya Garbha Antaryami. And now comes Virata Antaryami, or the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu feature. As we know, Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. Ksirodakasayi Vishnu is within the heart of every living entity, and Ksirodakasayi Vishnu is in the spiritual planet known as Svetadweep within this universe, or within each universe. See it the other way around. Ksirodakasayi Vishnu has his abode, the ocean of milk. Kshirodak, Daka, ocean. And that's in the heavenly skies. It can be seen because he allows it to be seen. Spiritual planet within this material universe, that's the abode of Lord Vishnu, Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. That's the place where the demigods go when they offer prayers, the Purusha Sukta prayers, for petitioning Lord Vishnu for help when they need some help. So that's Ksirodakasayi Vishnu's abode. And here, Jiva Goswami is referring to him as the Virad Antaryami. So here's the verse. It gets a little technical, but that's okay. Brahma prays, "My dear Lord, it is said that when the three planetary systems are merged into the water at the time of dissolution, your plenary portion, Narayana, lies down on the water. Gradually a lotus flower grows from his navel, and Brahma takes birth upon that lotus flower. Certainly these words are not false. Thus am I not born from you." So one could take it that this Narayana that's being referred to is Garbhodaksayi Vishnu, because that's where the lotus flower grows from his navel. That's Garbhodaksayi Vishnu. And Brahma takes birth at the top of the lotus flower, Garbhodaksayi Vishnu. However, there's partial annihilations and there's total annihilation. Partial annihilations occur at the end of Brahma's night, and there's other times when they occur periodically. But the whole universe isn't, all the three planetary systems, of course there's different ways of identifying the three planetary systems. Upper, middle, lower, that's three. But Bhuvar, and Svargaloka, that's another way that three is used. This earthly realm, Bhuvar Loka and Svargaloka. Sometimes the three planetary systems refers to those three. It doesn't specify, nor do the commentaries specify. But the planetary systems, in either the total or partial annihilation, the planetary systems merge into the water. So here's Jiva Goswami's commentary. So his statement is, "I am your son. Am I not born from you?" The previous verse was speaking of Garbhodaksayi Vishnu as both mother and father, because the scriptures speak like that. The Lord is everything, mother and father in one. So here's Jiva Goswami's commentary. "Since by mercy you became my father, you should forgive me." He praises the Lord as Virad Antaryami, known as Aniruddha or Ksirodakasayi, different from the second Purusha. So little, it's not in Jiva Goswami's commentary. I added some things here. Where this dialogue between Brahma and Krishna is discussed comes in Canto, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 2. And there's a verse from Adi Leela, chapter 2, text 56, where a little bit of this is explained. The first Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, in the causal ocean, who is the creator of the aggregate material energy, the Mahatattva, is an expansion of Sankarshan, semicolon. The second Purusha, Garbhodaksayi Vishnu, is an expansion of Pradyumna, semicolon. And the third Purusha, Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, is an expansion of Aniruddha, period. All these are within the category of manifestations of Narayana, who is a manifestation of Sri Krishna. So we've discussed this. Narayana commonly means the Lord of Vaikuntha, Lakshmi Narayan. However, because expansions from Narayan can also be identified as Narayan, sometimes they're likewise called Narayan, like Garbhodakshi Vishnu lying on the ocean and the lotus grows from his navel. That's Garbhodakshi Vishnu being referred to as Narayan. So that Vishnu expansion of Garbhodakshi Vishnu is, according to, it's a little technical, but he's an expansion of Pradyumna. The bigger picture, where is Pradyumna? Pradyumna is in the Vaikuntha realm. Pradyumna is also in Goloka realm. Pradyumna is the first son of Krishna. Pradyumna was the son of Rukmini and Krishna. And Aniruddha was Pradyumna's son. However, that's in Dwarka, and in the Vaikuntha realm, Pradyumna in the Vaikuntha realm expands as Garbhodakshi Vishnu. And Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, the third Purusha, expands from Aniruddha in the Vaikuntha realm. All these are within the category of manifestations of Narayana, who is a manifestation of Sri Krishna. Here's another purport found in Canto 6, Chapter 9. I'll just read a portion of it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has numerous transcendental names pertaining to different grades of revelation, to various grades of devotees and transcendentalists. When he is realized in his impersonal form, he is called the Supreme Brahman. When realized as Paramatma, he is called Antaryami. And when he expands himself in different forms for material creation, he is called Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, Garbhodakshi Vishnu, and Krsna Vishnu, making a distinction between the Supersoul Antaryami, Paramatma, and Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. Doesn't explain the distinction other than what's said here. When he is realized as Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, the Chaturvyuha, who are beyond the three forms of Vishnu, he is the Vaikuntha Narayana. So this is now equating the Chaturvyuha with the Vaikuntha Narayan, but Vaikuntha Narayan expands as the Chaturvyuha, but they're equal. Above realization of Narayan is realization of Baladev, and above that is realization of Krishna. All these realizations are possible when one engages fully in devotional service. The covered core of one's heart is then completely open to receiving and understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead in its various forms. And one more reference, there's many, but here's a short one. It's in the addendum or appendix that comes at the end of Canto 10, Chapter 1. Prabhupada writes, there are innumerable Brahmandas, means universes, plural, all of which emanate from the pores of the Krsna Vishnu, and in every Brahmanda there is a Garbhodakshi Vishnu, who is a partial expansion of Aniruddha. This Aniruddha is a partial expansion of Pradyumna, who is partially represented as Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, the supersoul of all living entities. Now, in this reference, supersoul is not being differentiated from Paramatma. Supersoul is not being differentiated from Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. The other one seems to make a differentiation. What it is not clear. So if you ask me what it is, the answer is it's not clear. But the reason for reading through this is because Jiva Goswami makes reference to the third Purusha, Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, who is in his language identified as Virad, Antaryami. That is, he resides in Svetadweep within the topmost part of the heavenly region. From the discussions about Dhruva, consistently, I didn't find any other reference than the consistent reference that Dhruvaloka equals the pole star, equals Svetadweep, equals the abode of Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. Just interchangeable terminologies. A one-to-one correlation between them. So in this universe, there's one spiritual planet that isn't destroyed when the universe is destroyed. That's the abode of Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, or the abode where Dhruva Maharaj is residing and presiding. And then there's a whole bunch of other things to be said about what he does while he's presiding there. Back to Brahma's prayers, he's acknowledging that this 5-year-old boy standing before him is all of these Vishnus. And specifically, as Garbhodaksayi Vishnu, he's the mother, and as Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, he's like the father or the Lord of the universe. When the demigods who are controllers of the universe have a problem, they go to him. He's the Lord of the universe. Back to Jiva Goswami's commentary. At the time of devastation of the universe, Jagat Trayanta, in the water remaining at the beginning of Brahma's day, Brahma came out of the lotus of Narayana's navel. Or in the Garbhodak ocean, at the bottom of the 3 worlds, Brahma was born from the lotus. So the picture of the Virat, or the universal form, is it has feet, and the feet of the universal form are just above the Garbhodak ocean. The bottom of the universe, or the universal form, the bottom of the universal form is above the Garbhodak ocean. And the 14 planetary systems mark the universal form, the lower portion and the middle portion and the upper portion of the universal form. There is another explanation. This describes Brahma's birth, not his day. The word Uddhara suggests everything existed within him at that time. Him means Krishna or Garbhodaksayi Vishnu. Nalat means from the lotus, indicated by its stem. The word Tu suggests that Brahma came out without a mother. He also stayed for a long time within Vishnu before coming out, Vi Nirgataha. He says, "Oh Lord," to indicate that he is still not qualified to think of the Lord as his father. Really short, this ends the commentary for text 13. Jiva Goswami, Kramasandarbha, writes, "My dear Lord, it is said that Brahma came out of the lotus in the navel on Narayan's belly in the water of devastation of the universe. Certainly, these words are not false. Thus, am I not born from you?" Speaking respectfully of the special nature of the Lord, expressed in the 2 verses, he again states his position as the Lord's son. So that the previous verse, you're the mother, and here I came from you, so I'm the son. Text 14, translation. Are you not the original Narayan? So now he's going up the hierarchy. Not the three Vishnu forms, but the original Narayan. O Supreme Controller, since you are the soul of every embodied being and the eternal witness of all created realms, indeed, Lord Narayan is your expansion, and he is called Narayan because he is the generating source of the primeval water of the universe. He is real, not a product of your illusory Maya. And the BBT, this is not Prabhupada, but his followers, write as follows. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 2, that same section that we referred to, the verse that we referred to is 26. This is verse 30. Quote, now, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows, quote, this statement, are you not the original Narayan? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows. This statement was spoken by Brahma in his prayers to Lord Krishna after the Lord defeated him by displaying his mystic powers. Brahma had tried to test Lord Krishna to see if he was really the Supreme Personality of Godhead playing as a coward boy. Brahma stole all the other boys and their cows, it was calves, from the pasturing grounds. But when he returned to the pastures, he saw that all the boys and calves were still there. For Lord Krishna had created them all again. When Brahma saw this mystic power of the Lord, he admitted defeat and offered prayers to the Lord, addressing him as the proprietor and seer of everything in the creation. And as the super soul, that's this verse, as the super soul who is within each and every living entity, and as is dear to all. Lord Krishna is Narayana, the father of Brahma, because Lord Krishna's plenary expansion, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, after placing himself on the Garbha ocean, created Brahma from his own body. Mahavishnu, in the causal ocean, and Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, the super soul in everyone's heart, are also transcendental expansions of the supreme truth, unquote. In another short paragraph, in his commentary on this verse, Srila Sanatana Goswami has elaborately explained the expansion of the Vishnu or Narayana incarnations from the original form of Krishna, of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The essence is that although Lord Brahma was born from Lord Narayana, Brahma now understands that Narayana is himself a mere expansion of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Because remember, back in Canto 2, Chapter 9, Brahma saw Vishnu. Not the original Krishna, but Vishnu, when there's details of what else he saw. And a similar description is found in Canto 3, in 2 places, where he also saw Vishnu. And just before these prayers, he saw Krishna manifesting forms of Narayan. So he's directly seen all of this. And he's now able to put the puzzle pieces together and understand that Krishna is the source of Narayan, the source of each of the Vishnus. In that sense, being the source, he is not different from, but exclusively he's the source. They're not the original source. So that's the teaching of Brahma Sampradaya. It's the teaching of Brahma Samhita. It's the teaching of the Bhagavatam. Brahma now understands that Narayana is himself a mere expansion of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. And another final, very short commentary is from Vishwanath. Quote, "You are the son of Narayana." That is true, Krishna speaking to Brahma. But then who am I, O Brahma? Brahma answers in this verse, "Are you not Narayana? O Lord of all, Adisha, as the Gita says, I pervade everything by one fragment of my energy. You are the soul of all entities. You are Paramatma for all jivas and the witness of all. Thus, this Narayan is one part of you." Krishna's reply, "But I'm called Krishna because I'm dark in color and live in Vrindavan. Vishnu is called Narayan because he lies in the water, Nara. So how am I Narayana?" Brahma replies, "Narayana also means water as well as jiva. Ayana means shelter. The Lord who dwells in the water is one of your expansions. Therefore, I have appeared from your womb. Just as your youthful form as Krishna and Vasudeva form are spiritual, not material, so this form of Narayana also is spiritual, existing at all times and places in Shuddha Sattva state, uninfluenced by matter. Other forms such as Matsya are also of the same category." So how about that? We're getting like a whole panorama of simple prayers and really in the fullness of what's being said. So concise language is one of the ways, one of the glories of the Bhagavatam itself. So within that concise language, there's many things to unpack and be illuminated and become realized. We've been saying this repeatedly, but Brahma's position, among other things, is he's the head of our sampradaya. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye, directly in the first verse of the Bhagavatam. The knowledge of the Vedas was imparted directly into Brahma's heart. He's has that unique and very special position. Firstborn living being, receiving all the Vedic knowledge, disseminating Vedic knowledge for the benefit of why the Vedas are presented, for the benefit of the upliftment of all living entities that are going to take birth in the universe or have taken birth now. It's for their benefit, especially the human form of life. So he's giving teachings about that which is the source of everything in the form of becoming bewildered by the circumstance that happened. Krishna is revealing many things to him visibly before his eyes, but then again also from his heart. And we're getting from his heart what he's understanding. Vedic wisdom directly from his heart, as if in a dialogue with Krishna where Krishna is objecting. No, no, no. And he's saying, yes, yes, yes. But he's not just, I have faith, I believe. He's giving transcendental reason and logic to express why he's saying what he's saying. You know, one can take the position, wait a minute, he's using one of the things that you Vaishnava people say you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to use tarka, or logic and reason to establish the absolute truth. But look what Brahma's doing. So, I'm sorry, I can't accept it. And my tarka says da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So there, stalemate. One reply is, it's not that his methodology is logic and reason. He is having direct realization, and he's supporting that direct realization, revelation, by explaining it in terms of things that one might better understand than just, look, Brahma said it, that's it. Prabhupada I was just listening to Prabhupada describe a conversation he had with an Arya Samaji gentleman. And apparently the gentleman was not offensive, as sometimes people that have a different theology are offensive towards Vaishnava theology. The Arya Samajis just reject wholesale lots of things. So this particular, one of the big ones is deity worship. They just rejected wholesale. And he didn't tell the story. I've heard the story from Prabhupada. The gentleman that started that whole philosophy, he saw a mouse crawling on the altar and going here and there about the feet of the deity. So his conclusion was, how can this be Krishna? So he just rejects the idea of deities. We're going to get another idea. He just threw deity worship out, although it's within the Vedas. So if you throw the deity worship out, that's within the Vedas, you're at your discretion to throw whatever else out you want from the Vedas. So they don't like deity worship. So this man was asking Prabhupada, why do you accept that Krishna eats? As far as I can see, you place something before the deity, it is still there. So why is it you accept that Krishna eats? And Prabhupada said, I answered the man because Krishna said he eats. Yajashnami. Now, over there's some person, you or somebody else, that says he doesn't eat. And Krishna says he eats. So I accept what Krishna says. Business is over. He says he eats. He didn't go further. His eating is different than your eating. But he says he eats, so he eats. That's all. That's faith in the scripture. And if somebody doesn't have faith in the scripture, then they're going to interpret the scripture according to their liking, or just toss it out, or whatever. But tarka apratishta, they're not going to reach the conclusion. But Jiva Goswami, and here Lord Brahma, is using logic, but it's not to establish, it's just to support his realization. It's something like, for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was posted he requested, he wanted to resign from government service, and they said, no. And finally he resigned, because he wanted to be posted in Krishna Nagar, so he could be near the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they said, no. But when he quit, then they said, okay, Krishna Nagar it is. So when he went to Krishna Nagar, he was already a celebrity in terms of his notoriety, but also being in that position of high court judge in that district, Nadia district, with Krishna Nagar as its capital. He had access to things that government people have access to, namely British records during the time of British rule, and ancient maps that cartographers had made, and he was using those tools along with scriptural tools to reach the conclusion that the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not this new place that they call Navadvip, because Navadvip is new compared to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. It came about such and such years ago. And it came about after the course, map showed the course of the Ganges had shifted. He's like, Sherlock Holmes. He's got a detective story going, finding out that according to the maps and according to scripture, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure, the course of the Ganges would shift. And sure enough, the maps showed the course of the Ganges had shifted, and that which was on the eastern side of Navadvip, eastern side of the Ganges, was covered by the Ganges when Ganges shifted. And then it stayed like that for some time, then it shifted back. And after it shifted back is when Navadvip began, because it didn't even exist as a city until the Ganges shifted to where it is today. So Navadvip is where it is today, but it wasn't there during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so he reached a deductive conclusion. This new Navadvip isn't the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. But where it is, I don't know. But, the eastern, according to scripture, the eastern bank of the river Ganges. So where did the river Ganges flow during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And without going through the rest of it, there were other deductive, sense perception, information, therefore something. He eventually concluded that the actual birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that patch of land over there that's now on the eastern side of the Ganges, where it won't grow anything but tulsi plants. Agricultural fields that won't grow rice, it won't grow potatoes. Potatoes grow anywhere. They grow in your living room. Potatoes grow anywhere, but and eggplants wouldn't grow, and nothing would grow. So the agriculturists considered it useless. But the one thing that would grow was tulsi, and other things. So he concluded that's the place. But the final confirmation was bringing Jagannath Das Babaji to the place. And the transcendentally realized Jagannath Das Babaji jumped out, the infirm Vaishnava that had to be carried in a basket, jumped out of the basket, jumped in the air and started dancing, saying, "This is it." To him, that's the confirmation, not the sense perception, maps, and inference, and logic and reason. Even stronger than later, when excavating the foundation, they found the deity of Adhokshaja Vishnu that Lord Chaitanya's father, Jagannatha Mishra, had worshipped, buried under the mud of the Ganges when the Ganges shifted. So for some people, that's it. There's archaeology. You got some artifacts, and that proves. Like the book that Druta Karma is writing, his third book now on something about the ancient, forget what he's calling the title of it, but newer and newer information about how it went from archaeology, the finding, human antiquity, that's what it's called. So it's based on artifacts, human antiquity, but it's already there in the Vedas. So, but you can use, as Brahma is doing, Druta Karma is doing, he's using reason and logic together with sense perception data to simply confirm what the Vedas already say. No problem. So what Brahma is doing is giving an understanding of, he's giving his realization and inferring, there's inference or logic and reason to support his realization. You're my father. Here's a 5-year-old boy, and being spoken to by the firstborn, eldest living entity in the whole universe, saying, "You're my father." And Krishna's going, "What?" Please consider what you're saying. How is this? Yes, it's true. I'll give you 3 proofs. And he gives 3 proofs to confirm his realization. So we can do the same. We don't reach the conclusion based upon logic and reason. We can support the conclusion of the Vedas based on logic and reason, which doesn't prove anything. This is not proof. Logic and reason is not proof. It just gives reasonable support to something that we simply accept. Like, there's a spirit soul. Who's seen a spirit soul? Show me. And if you can't show me, why you want me to accept this? We accept it. It's not only we accept it. Gallup poll shows, so many percentage of 87% of the people accept their soul. They just don't live that way, which means they don't really accept it. Notionally, but not practically. So, how do you prove the soul? We can't, there's logic to say there is a soul, but logic isn't a proof. Without the soul, it's a dead body. That's not a proof that the soul is the cause of the life. Who knows? There might be some other cause. Where's the proof? You just have some blind faith. Really, everything is something else. And that was in the previous verse. Some people say that the universe is false. Some people say it's true. Different philosophies, different philosophers, whatever that is that they have to say, and the thing that they have to say it about, that's all within you, because you're the source of everything, including me. So I'm your son, so Dad, please forgive me. Please excuse my impudence. So he's giving a really big picture of Krishna Tattva. At least these last three verses. Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, all three Vishnus are within Krishna, each of them having a function together with the universe, which is Lord Brahma's service, the engineer or creator of the universe, and he wants Krishna's protection. He knowing that he's merciful, he's appealing to his mercy. So we'll hear more about the arguments in favor or not of Krishna being Brahma's father, little 5-year-old boy being Krishna, and Vrindavan being Brahma's father. It does defy reason, and yet there's reason. Stay tuned. Any discussion on this topic or off topic? These days, there's lots of off topic questions. Okay, we have our first hand up.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. I remember you talking about how Aniruddha is the partial expansion of Ksirodakasayi Vishnu or something. So what's the difference between an incarnation, expansion, and a partial expansion?
Well, incarnation means from the spiritual world to here. And expansion means a direct expansion. A portion of that, not in the fullness of the expansion, is the portion of the expansion. Vishnu does not represent everything of Bhagavan. Vishnu is the Paramatma feature, or the portion of a plenary portion or expansion that has functions dealing with material energy, overseeing the process of creation, its maintenance and dissolution. That's a function that's partial to the expansion.
Thank you.
That's language. Bhaktisiddhanta's language is more complex than that. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, in this series of Brahma's prayers, earlier, I think it's a commentary from Sanatan Goswami, where the outcome of mercy is the object of perfect knowledge. So is this a correct understanding that the spiritual master is the manifestation of mercy, a manifestation of the Lord is the object of perfect knowledge?
Well, the instrument to deliver, yes, but not the personification of, no. The deliverer is Krishna, and the instrument delivers the goods. The instrument delivers the goods. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Maharaj, we were talking about the three different types of Vishnus, Mahavishnu and Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and Ksirodakasayi Vishnu. So I know that Krishna has 64 opulences and that his expansions do not have all 64 of them. So in the case of these three Vishnus, do the number of opulences differ?
In the case of the Vishnu expansions, what was the last part?
Do the number of opulences differ?
60 out of 64. And even the 60 are not in full, whereas they're full in Krishna. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Let's go online. And in the explanation of what Brahma saw when he came to Vrindavan and Krishna showed those forms, mostly Narayan terminology is used, which means Vaikuntha Narayan. But it back again, it could mean the other ones. Sometimes Vishnu is used, Vishnu forms, but mostly it's Narayan forms. And the last part is, what's the difference between these realizations? Well, it's more complete or less complete. Just as that one purport that we read, I could read it again, but I'll read it again. It's nice. I think it answers your question. There is a less complete and a more complete stage of realization of each of these. In one sense, it's subtle and it's not so essential because it's Vishnu Tattva realization in any case. Here's the commentary. This is 6.9.33 purport. 6.9.33 purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has numerous transcendental names pertaining to different grades of revelation, to various grades of devotees and transcendentalists. When he is realized in his impersonal form, he is called the Supreme Brahman, capital letters. When realized as Paramatma, he is called Antaryami. And when he expands himself in different forms for material creation, he is called Ksirodakasayi Visnu, Garbhodakasayi Vishnu, and Karnano Dakshayi Vishnu. When he is realized as Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, the Chaturvyuha who are beyond the three forms of Vishnu, he is the Vaikuntha Narayana. Above realization of Narayana is realization of Baladev, and above that realization is realization of Krishna. All these realizations are possible when one engages fully in devotional service. So that's really where our attention should go, isn't it? The covered core of one's heart is then completely open to receive an understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his various forms, which seems to be what is happening with Brahma right now, because he's seeing Krishna, but he's understanding him in his various forms at the same time.
This question is from Sanchari. Is that area that only grows tulasi still there in Navadvip? Is that area that only grows tulsi, is it still there?
Well, the area is still there, but there's a temple on it.
Then second question is, when thinking about the opulence of all renunciation, why is it that the Vishnus don't have this in full? Apologies if I'm incorrectly remembering the 4 additional opulences that Krishna has compared to Vishnu's.
Yeah, I don't remember it as you remember it. It's one of the 6 opulences of Bhagavan, but the 4 that Krishna has that the Vishnu forms don't have is not renunciation. Correct? Okay. Look it up in Nectar Devotion. Somebody that has a little handheld device can look it up in their handheld device. What are the 4 that Krishna has that Vishnu doesn't have? While we continue with questions.
This question is from Shyamasundar Prabhu. Can you please share some light how a soul travels towards Goloka Vrindavan? I heard that we pass through different planets just to see if we have some tinge of material desire. Then we get stuck there, according to our desire. Can you please elaborate more on this journey?
I don't recall reading anything that says that specifically. It's common, something that commonly Prabhupada would speak about, that is to say, if you have even a pinch of material. So the journey is a subtle journey, and it can take place in a flash, but that which one might be attracted to, you pass by. I mean, the little bit, Shamsundar, the little bit that gives some detail is Gopakumar. It's not at the end of his life, but Gopakumar going from the worldly realm, passing through all the places that he had visited before. The demigods are showering flowers and playing musical instruments and celebrating. He's going to Krishna Loka. It happens in a flash, so to speak. The passage of time is like nothing, but he has no attraction, and so he keeps going. He's in his journey back home, back to Godhead. So it's something like that. If there is some attraction, one goes to that where one is attracted, because Krishna is facilitating our attraction. So a kinchana, where one has no material affinity, is part of the qualification in that journey. Specifically, what's it like? What's the journey like? We're doing it now. It's a slow motion journey. But at the time of the soul passing to Goloka, it's Gopakumar is not dying and his soul goes, but he's able to, within the same body, move back and forth freely with no attachment to the temporary. Did you find the reference? Keep looking. That's it? Okay. You found it?
I have a question.
Okay.
This question is on Bhagavad Gita, Maharaj 11.5. In the purport, Prabhupada, in the last sentence, he states that the universal form is not possible to be seen by any ordinary man. Krishna must give one the power to see it. So, in the case of Arjuna, he was able to see the universal form because Krishna gave him the
Vision,
because the vision. But what about the other people in the battlefield? They can't see the universal form. So what do they see? What do they see going on in the battlefield at that time?
Well, there's no indication of what they did see, it's more of what they didn't see. They probably saw Krishna and Arjuna having a conversation.
So were they covered up by Krishna's Yogamaya potency?
Not exactly. No, that not Yogamaya potency, Mahamaya. Seeing Krishna's, any of Krishna's forms, seeing Krishna on the battlefield in his two-armed form talking to Arjuna, it happens by Krishna's mercy for the Kauravas. Otherwise, they couldn't see him. And then for the devotees, they could see him. That is Krishna. So Krishna expands a potency that allows himself to be seen. Otherwise, one can't see. In his Prakat Leela, there's a potency expanded by Krishna, so even unqualified people can see. And the same can be said about the universal form. One can see or not see, just like what Mother Yasoda saw. She could see because Krishna expanded his potency so she could see. And what she saw is described a little bit differently than what we see, what we hear Krishna or Arjuna saw, etc. The descriptions of the universal form are diverse, is my point. And the other point is to see anything in relation to Krishna requires mercy from Krishna. So what they didn't see is clear. What they did see is they saw Krishna and Arjuna having a conversation before the battle. The four qualities are?
He is the performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes, especially his childhood pastimes. Second one, he is surrounded by devotees endowed with wonderful love of Godhead. Third, he can attract all living entities all over the universes by playing on his flute. Fourth, he has a wonderful excellence of beauty which cannot be rivaled anywhere in the creation.
Okay. Thank you. I used to know the Sanskrit for each of those, but it's been a while. So how are we doing? We're finished with online? Yeah. Anyone else in the room have something? Yes?
Guru Maharaj, in one of the earlier lectures, there was a citation from about Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying in the incident when he was delivering the ghost, the chanting should not be lip depth, but should be heart depth. So, how to progressively transform to heart depth? It's a complex thing, but
It's just maturing in bhakti. Bhakti is from the heart, it's not just a behavior. So as your bhakti matures, then it becomes heart deep, not just lip deep. There's details and details and details and details, but that's the principle. So what does heart deep mean? Well, that's can be explained in different ways, or different persons may define it in different ways. But in simple language, of the language of Rupa Goswami, with the intention of pleasing Krishna. Anukalyena Krishna Anushilanam, with the intention of pleasing Krishna.
Thank you much.
That's heart deep. To get there, you have to cultivate. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. We have to cultivate pleasing Krishna with our chanting, attracting Krishna, who is all attractive. Let our heart become attracted to the all attractive. Let him become attracted to the calling of his name.
This question is from Mahati Kirti Mataji. What are the functions of Aniruddha and Pradyumna?
I was afraid somebody was going to ask that, because there is some specific reference. One has to do with the intelligence, the other has to do with the mind. But I'm not really clear at the moment. They're the lords of, and which is not really clear at the moment.
And Amritakeli Mataji wrote the Sanskrit for the 4 qualities.
Oh,
She says, Leela Madhurya, Bhakta Madhurya, Venu Madhurya, and Rupa Madhurya.
what was the last one?
Rupa.
Rupa. Okay. So read them again, the 4.
It's Leela,
Say the whole thing. Leela Madhurya.
Leela Madhurya, he is the performer of wonderful...
No, I don't know. Just the Sanskrit. Just the Sanskrit.
Leela Madhurya, Bhakta Madhurya, Venu Madhurya, and Rupa Madhurya.
Okay.
This question is from Sarala Mataji. I need small help regarding lectures. How can we know the lecture schedule of Guru Maharaj ahead of time so that we will not miss the opportunity to attend the lectures?
Okay. Vamsidhari can give you the answer to that after class. There is a system. I don't know the system, but he'll give you this. He'll give you that how you can find out.
Someone is typing.
Huh? Someone is typing. Well, anything back there? No? No. Venu Madhurya, Rupa Madhurya, Bhakta Madhurya.
Leela Madhurya.
I said that at the beginning. Leela, Rupa, Bhakta, Venu. Okay.
So Sanchari still has that question. How is the all renunciation opulence that Krishna has different from that of Vishnu? If Maharaj already answered, it's
Okay.
all good.
Vishnu has renunciation in terms of Aishwarya. Krishna has renunciation in terms of Aishwarya plus Madhurya. He can walk away from the rasa dance. Vishnu doesn't do that. Okay, that's it.
One more question.
One more.
This question is from Mohan Lila Prabhu. In regards to Srila Prabhupada's conversation with a person on deity worship, you talked about rejecting part of the Vedas and accepting some parts isn't right. How do we understand where our organization doesn't give importance to some parts of the Vedas, like rituals, etc.?
Well, the essence, it's the answer to the question has to do with principle and details. There's a chapter in Nectar Devotion that begins by explaining Rupa Goswami is intending to speak about principles, not details, because details may be like this or like that. The principle can't be pushed to the side. The principle must be accepted. So there are details that are put to the side because Krishna in principle indicates they can be put to the side. For example, worship of demigods. One may the Brijbasis worship the demigods, but they didn't worship the demigods independently. They worshiped the demigods as great devotees of the Lord, to please the Lord. And, if we try to worship demigods, or those who do try to worship demigods, will end up in the soup. Because like Prabhupada was explaining, he didn't introduce Ganesh worship because we would approach Ganesh for fulfillment of material desire. Even if it's not intentionally, we would do so because that's our heart. So they apply principles according to the capacity and the time, place, circumstance of the audience. But the principles don't change. That's the explanation. Principles versus details. We put principles in the foreground. That's
I have
it.
a question.
You have a question.
Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is inside the universe.
Yeah.
And we see that Karanodakashayi Vishnu actually glances and then transfers all the living entities and the karma into the material pradhan. So I was wondering, what is the abode of Karanodakashayi Vishnu? Is he in...
Karanodakashayi Vishnu's abode is the causal ocean, Karana ocean. That's his abode.
Where is the Karna ocean? I was thinking
It's on the other side of the universe. The universes are floating in the Karna ocean. Like footballs floating in the ocean, floating in a sea of water, the causal ocean. And Karna Dakshayi Vishnu is there, in that ocean.
My understanding, I don't know. I was thinking that the other side of the universes is Brahmajyoti.
The other shore of the ocean is the Brahmajyoti. The ocean has shores. Now, we can try to think of it in two-dimensional or three-dimensional space. And that has its limits because it's not exactly like that. But, we can use that language to help us understand this side of the ocean, that side of the ocean. And within the ocean, the causal ocean, that's Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean. It expands the universes and they float on the causal ocean like footballs.
One more question.
Yeah.
So is the Viraja river and Karna ocean
Same. There's probably some difference, but the nomenclature commonly is used interchangeably. And if there, what is that difference? I'm not really sure. I think it, as far as I can understand, it just has to do with a feature of that ocean. Sometimes the feature of it is known as Virat. What's the other term again? Viraja, yeah. Yeah, Viraja. Okay. We done? Anything from... Tell me, what percentage of what we discussed did you understand? 20%, 50%, 80%, 0%?
Less than 5%.
Less than 5. Okay. A little technical, huh? Sorry about that. It's part of Krishna Tattva. One of the things about these topics that they're new, besides the terminology is new, the concept is also new. The recommendation that Prabhupada gave is if at first you don't understand, hear it again or read it again, and after hearing again, reading again, you don't understand, hear it again, read it again. And it's different than, let's just say, all the technology that Vamsidhari is having to work with to make this little thing go out to a lot of people with chat boxes and live stream and connecting with whatever he's Facebook or wherever he's connecting with. And, I don't know anything about this. And if he tried to explain it to me, he'd be like, what? I wouldn't even get 5%. But that's material intelligence can slowly grasp, here's how you make this technology work. But different is spiritual understanding or spiritual science, and it's knowledge that we already have inside. It's covered. So it's different kind of learning something that's new. It's just remembering something we've forgotten. So it's much easier. Or let's say, at least, it's very different. Because we're accustomed to knowledge that's, you build upon it. Ascending knowledge. And this is descending knowledge. And it's based upon hearing. And purification that comes from hearing. And then, a little more light comes in. Oh, that's what that means. Okay, this puzzle piece fits together with that. It's resting upon hearing. Because you're not the only one that a lot of this is, Yeah.
Two more questions. This is again from Sarala Mataji. Srila Prabhupada describes that people who worship demigods are less intellectual.
Less intelligent.
Less intelligent. Could you please elaborate on this, what Prabhupada is trying to convey?
He's trying to convey that the intelligent people only will take shelter of that which is the source of everything. And less intelligent people don't want to go to the source of everything. They want to get their needs, interests, and concerns met by whatever way they can get it. And so they go to the demigods. Without understanding, less intelligent is they don't understand where the demigods get the power to deliver whatever they deliver. If they go to the source, you don't get, you don't need an intermediary. He calls it bribery. You go to somebody and, give something to get something. When really there's the higher officer, and just have a proper relationship with the higher officer. And that's where the less intelligence, they don't understand how the whole thing works. And they're not understanding it because of kamaistaista hrityajnana prapadyante anya devata. Because of kama, they don't have that better intelligence.
This question is from Mahati Kirti Mataji. Is Goddess Lakshmi there with the three forms of Vishnu, Karanodakasayi, Garbhodakasayi, and Ksirodakasayi Vishnu?
With Mahavishnu, she's known as Rama Devi, not Lakshmi, and she's not ever shown outside Mahavishnu at his feet. She is described as being within. No, it's subtle, but she, Rama Devi, is enjoying eternal pastimes with Mahavishnu within Mahavishnu. She's his potency, and she could, or he could manifest her outside, but she's within, and they're enjoying eternal pastimes. It doesn't describe what those pastimes are. I'm expecting that next question. And Lakshmi is often referred to as at the feet of Garbhodakasayi Vishnu and Ksirodakasayi Vishnu, but Rama Devi would also be appropriate. Krishna Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki? Jai.